Alright, how's everybody doing today? Back again with another video for you guys. And today what I have for everyone is my full review of the Moto E4 Plus. Y'all know how the story goes. I've been using it for a while. I think I got a handle on everything I want to talk about with you guys. So it's full review time. Jumping right in, the first thing I want to talk about with you guys is the overall build quality and design of the device. Now, from a build quality and design standpoint, if y'all seen my Moto E4 review, you're going to hear more of the same with a few differences. Now, from a build quality and design standpoint, we have another solid build here. In particular, with the differences here, instead of having the texturized plastic like we did on the E4, we have the plastic sides with the aluminum mid-frame. Other than that, I would have to say that from a build quality and design standpoint, Motorola did a great job on this one. There's no rattling or creaking of any kind. All the buttons are very tactile and clicky. They have a nice response to them, and that's especially nice with the fact that this backplate is removable. And let me just show y'all that real quick. So you got your little fingernail groove here. So you pop it off. It's a little bit harder to do with the metal frame here. So you kind of got to start it and work your way around. Again, I'm saying that this is much easier on the Moto E4. It's a little bit of a task here on the E4 Plus. And I actually feel like I'm going to break my fingernail here. But this guy is user removable. Let me see if I can get it off the rest of the way for you guys. Pretty much. Okay. Alright. So pretty much there you go, guys. You just get it started and you work it around and it comes off. And what you have access to here now is you have access to your microSD card slot and your nano SIM card tray. Right now I don't have anything in this guy because I've been testing it for the last 4 days. I've been testing the battery life over Wi-Fi by itself. So I don't have anything in this guy right now. But you do have access to your microSD card and your SIM card tray. Keep in mind this is a nano SIM, guys. And as you can see, you have a 5,000 non-removable milliamp hour battery in this guy. And I gotta tell you guys, the battery life on this guy, spoiler, it's really good. We're gonna get more in depth as we move along, but it's really good. And as you can see, this is metal. This is a metal mid plate with plastic up and bottom, plastic top and bottom. Now I think that they did that for antenna and reception purposes, so that may make the signal strength a little bit better. But you can see that this is a metal mid plate. I don't know if you can hear that, but that is a metal mid plate. So again, the back on this guy is user removable, but you do not have a removable battery here. Then just put it back on. You just snap it all on. And again, this one's a little bit tougher because it is metal. And I've done this a bunch of times, and y'all can see it doesn't get any easier. And sometimes I forget that it's not snapped on all the way, so I'm just trying to get that. Now you'll be able to tell if it's not snapped on all the way because your buttons won't be as tactile. So one way to tell that it is going on all the way is that your buttons will be tactile and have a nice clicky response to it. But that right there is just to show you guys that it does have a user removable backplate, and that's how you access your micro SD card and your nano SIM card trays. But keeping it moving, again, from a build quality and design standpoint, I think Motorola, now owned by Lenovo, did a great job with this one. Now let's keep it moving. Up next thing I want to talk about with you guys is the display on this guy. So up front, dead center here, we have a 5.5 inch 720p display, and I believe it has a screen density of 267. But from a day-to-day standpoint, when we talk about the display, I had to say this is a really, really good display. Didn't have any issues using it outdoors, and this is pretty much where I kept it, regardless of whether I was going outdoors or not. This is where I kept it. It's a really, really good display. But for those of you who like to see the brightness, y'all can see as it kind of throws the exposure on the camera for a little bit of a loop, that it does actually get really, really bright. So in terms of display, I had no issues with the display. And keep in mind, guys, this is again a 720p display. So not full HD, 720p. But for those of you who want to see the actual numbers, I'm going to pull it up here because the CPU-Z app and the CPU-X app actually have the wrong numbers. So we pull up the web browser here, and you guys can see right there, it's a 5.5 inch 720p IPS LCD display, and it has a screen density of 267. And guys, again, this guy does have an oleophobic coating, which helps with fingerprints, so you don't really get that much fingerprints on the display. And it does have a splash resistant nano coating, so this guy does hold up to splashes, but it's not rated for full submersion. But you know, if you're doing the dishes and you got to answer a real quick phone call and your hands are still wet or something like that, or you get caught out in the rain and your phone gets a little wet, it should be okay. So there is that as well. But again, in terms of display, putting the numbers aside, I have to say that it's a really, really good display on this guy, and I've had no issues with the display when it comes to day-to-day usage. Now, up next, I just want to talk more about the hardware and the software in this guy. So, hardware-wise, this guy is running 2 gigs of RAM and 16 gigs of internal storage with microSD card expansion, and that microSD card can be used as adaptable storage, so you can make your microSD card internal storage, which is always a plus. Then you have a 13 megapixel camera on the back here with LED flash. Again, you have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, and trust me, this battery is going to last for days. Moving back to the camera, this guy is capable of shooting 1080p videos at 30 frames a second, 720p videos at 30 frames a second, and 480p videos at 30 frames a second. Okay, you do have the ability to use Pro Mode with this rear facing camera as well. Jumping to the front here, we have a 5 megapixel camera up top. We have our receiver, which also doubles as our loudspeaker, so that's nice to see. Got a front facing speaker here. Then we got our flash right there. In particular, when we talk about the camera on the front, this is a 5 megapixel camera, which is capable of doing everything that the rear facing camera can do. So it can record 1080p videos at 30 frames a second, can record 720p videos at 30 frames per second, and record 480p videos at 30 frames a second. And it can also take advantage of Pro Mode with the front facing camera as well. Moving on, as I've already talked about, we got our 5.5 inch IPS LCD 720p display. Then at the bottom here, we have our capacitive fingerprint sensor. And really gotta let you guys know that the fingerprint sensor on this guy is phenomenal. And as you can see, the only reason why it's not going in right away is because I do have the Amazon ad supported version. So it's gonna take me straight to the lock screen. When I use the fingerprint sensor, it's going to take me straight to the lock screen so I can see that ad, and then I tap it again, it's going to take me in. Now, if I want to bypass that, push the power button, then push the fingerprint sensor, and I'm in. But the fingerprint sensor on this guy is really, really good. Really good indeed. So, that's that. Other things when we talk about the hardware Internally, this guy is running a Snapdragon 427 processor. That's an octa-core processor, and an Adreno 308 GPU. Alright, now I may have made some mistakes with this guy talking about the processors. The Moto E4 has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 425. The Moto E4 Plus has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 427. So I'll try and clarify that in future videos for you guys. I may have made a few mistakes in these past videos, so I just wanted to clarify that. If y'all see this video, it's a 427 in this guy and a 425 in the small guy. Just wanted to point that out. Now, moving on to the software. Software-wise, again, we're running a stock build of Android 7.1.1 Nougat. So I was messing around with some features earlier. But as you can see, the software on this guy is pretty much unmolested, untampered with Android 7.1.1 Nougat. And if we jump in here, you can actually see we're running the June 1st security patch. So it's not quite the latest and greatest, but it's pretty close. And it's pretty good to see that Motorola pretty much left the software exactly how Google intended it. The only additions that Motorola threw in on this one is that they threw in a few Moto actions and the Moto display. So in particular, when we talk about the Moto actions, we have the ability to use the one button nav feature. So that gets rid of the on-screen buttons, and we can use the fingerprint sensor to navigate through the device. So swiping left will take us back. Swiping right will bring up recent apps. Tapping would take us home. Tap and hold, turn off the display. Let me get back in here. Tap and hold a little bit longer will bring up Google Now. So really, really neat feature, and I've actually become a pro using this guy with just the fingerprint sensor, and I actually prefer to use it that way. But just because I don't want to have any mispresses on camera, we're going to go ahead and deactivate it, because it's a lot easier to use the on-screen buttons so you have less mispresses. Other features include, you do have the ability to shrink the display to make it more one-hand friendly. And then you have your Moto display. So when the device is off, if it senses motion, it will light up the display. Now it's pretty hard to trigger on camera here, but y'all may have saw it earlier in the video. Once the device senses motion, if I pick it down, pick it up, the display will light up, and you can interact with your device just using the Moto display. So really neat features there. And other than that, this is pretty much stock Android here. So it's pretty nice to see that Motorola only threw in useful features. You know, they didn't throw in too many gimmicks or things like that. They only threw in stuff that were useful and that I think users will actually use with the device. Now there is a downside, that the twist to launch the camera, that gesture didn't make it. You know, the chop to turn on the flashlight, that gesture didn't make it, at least not on this model. That one is available on the G series and the Z series. It's not available on the E series here. So to alleviate that, they did throw in your double press of the power button, launches you into the camera, and this one pretty much works regardless of where you are in the device. Double press and it'll take you into the camera. So it's pretty nice. So although they got rid of the twist feature, you still have the double press feature. So that one's still there, but you don't have the chop to launch your flashlight. So that's kind of a bummer there. But it is what it is. So that pretty much does it for the software and the features. And I gotta tell you guys, in terms of software and day-to-day usage and performance, I've had no issues with this guy, no issues whatsoever. Everything has been very fluid, snappy, and responsive, with the exception of that when I have a bunch of apps open in the background and I'm switching between them, I will get that occasional app slowdown. Also, I do want to point out one other thing, that I ran into some issues with my micro SD card on this guy. So I actually, when I loaded up everything to the micro SD card and had this device running from the micro SD card, I did have a few issues where the phone thought it was running out of space when it actually wasn't. So, you know, I just had to wipe off the micro SD card again and do a wipe factory reset on the micro SD card, and then reassign it to internal storage. So there was that. Now that happened one time, and pretty much what happens is that the phone, it starts crashing the apps because it thinks it's out of space. One way to fix that is you restart the device, then everything works normally. Now I found that I kept running into that issue, so I wiped out the micro SD card and I did I set it back to the internal storage again, and that pretty much fixed it, and then I had no issues. But since I did run into that problem, I had to point it out there. But other than that issue with the micro SD card and the occasional app slowdown with a bunch of apps open, I didn't have any other issues with this device, any issues whatsoever. So in terms of the hardware and the software on this guy, I would have to say that it's really, really good. Now, moving on, let's talk about the Wi-Fi in this guy. Now, in terms of Wi-Fi, this guy is running Wi-Fi 802.11, BGNN, and AC. No dual band on this guy, but it does have support for the 2.4 gigahertz band and the 5 gigahertz band. And I gotta tell you guys, during my testing, I had no issues with the Wi-Fi. I had no issues with the data reception. Wherever I had good service or good Wi-Fi, things ran really, really good. Now, I know the numbers don't exactly reflect that because they're kind of lower than what you guys are probably used to seeing. But in terms of overall usage, when we talk about the Wi-Fi, I had no issues. Now, because I know y'all want to see a real-life demonstration, I'm just going to load up a video here. And this video will also double as a speaker test. So let me go ahead. I'm going to leave it on vibrate so y'all don't get those funky notification sounds. I'm going to turn the media volume all the way up to max. So you can see there the speaker volume is set to max. And we're going to let this video play. And y'all can see how it loads up there as well. And y'all can see it actually had to refresh because I was listening to it earlier. So I had to pull up in background so y'all can see just how quickly it refreshes. So this guy does have to refresh apps, but it is fairly quickly. So anyways, you guys enjoy the speaker test. I'm going to scrub through the video so y'all can see how the Wi-Fi performs. Enjoy, guys. Okay, so real quick Wi-Fi demonstration for you guys. As y'all can see, the Wi-Fi performance was really, really good. And in my opinion, when we talk about the speakers, I have to say that the speaker, or the one front-firing speaker on this guy, is actually really, really good as well. It gets really loud and stays very crisp and clear throughout. Now, it's not the loudest speaker in the world, but it gets loud enough to do everything that you need to do, and it actually stays very crisp and clear throughout. So I figured that was actually really, really good, and the placement is perfect. Front firing speakers, you guys already know, in my opinion, all speakers need to be front firing. They're a lot harder to block that way. You don't have to worry about hand positioning or, you know, cupping the device so you get the sound to go the way you want it. It's just a lot easier and straightforward if you have front firing speakers. And the speaker on this guy is actually really, really good. All right, now let's keep it moving. Up next, what I want to talk to you guys about now is the LTE band supported in this guy. So let me pull it up real fast. It's going to scroll up here. Let me hold it up so you guys can see it. So now, in terms of LTE bands, let me let that focus. Alright, in terms of LTE bands, on paper, this guy is supposed to work on every GSM carrier in the United States and every carrier in the United States and every GSM carrier abroad. Now, you guys take that with a grain of salt, because I did test these guys on Sprint, and I had some issues activating these guys on Sprint. As I said I would do for my Moto E4 review video, I actually tried to activate these guys on Sprint, and it didn't work out so well. But it actually worked on everyone else that I tested. So I tried T-Mobile. You guys know T-Mobile is my main carrier, and it worked no problem. I tried Cricket, it worked no problem. I tried Metro PCS, it worked no problem. I have friends that have all of these carriers, guys. So real quickly, I was just like, hey, drop your SIM in here real quick. Let me see if that works. And it pretty much worked on every carrier except for Sprint. So these guys will not work on Sprint, but they'll work on everybody else. So I just want to throw that out there. But as y'all can see, if y'all have a carrier that supports these bands, you should be good to go. It has all the GSM, HSPA, HSPA Plus bands, WCDMA, CDMA, all those bands are there. In particular, for LTE, it has band 1, band 2, band 4, band 5, band 7, band 8, band 12, band 13, band 17, band 25, band 26, band 38, band 41, and band 66. So really all the good LTE bands here that you need for this guy to work properly. But keep in mind, it will not work on Sprint, and I have tried it, so I gotta point that out. But that being said, in terms of band and data support, I had no issues whatsoever. And keep in mind, I am a T-Mobile customer, and this works on T-Mobile, no problems. Alright, so now let's keep it moving. Up next, what I want to talk about with you guys right now is the Bluetooth support in this guy. Now, Bluetooth wise, this guy has Bluetooth 4.1 technology in it, and I could tell you guys right here, as you can see, I had no issues with the Bluetooth, no issues whatsoever, and I pretty much connected this guy up to every Bluetooth headphone, earphone, speaker that I own, and I had no issues whatsoever, and it worked pretty much like a charm. So in terms of Bluetooth, if you have a lot of Bluetooth accessories like myself, you shouldn't have any issues connecting up your headphones, your speakers, Bluetoothing between devices. You shouldn't have any issues. So the Bluetooth on this guy is really, really good. Next, let's keep it moving. Now I just want to talk to you guys about the GPS support in here. And again, this is another solid one, guys. In terms of the GPS support, I had no issues with the GPS, no issues whatsoever. And let me just let that focus. Y'all can see this is one of my screenshots from testing. It actually locked on within seconds, and I had no issues with turn-by-turn navigation or anything that needed to use the GPS. And you guys already know that's really important to me because your boy is very GPS dependent. So if you guys are GPS dependent like myself, y'all should have no issues when it comes to GPS on the Moto E4 Plus here. So let's keep it moving. Up next now, I just want to talk to you guys about the call quality through the receiver and the speaker call quality through the on speaker calls here. Now, calls through the receiver were actually great. They were very loud, crisp, and clear, and I had no issues when I had receptions. I had no issues with the calls. Receivers on the other end said they could hear me no problems. Didn't have any issues. Speaker calls were pretty much more of the same, but I do wish, as I'm seeing as a trend here, I wish that the speaker calls could be a little bit louder. But that's just me. But all in all, in terms of calls and call quality, I had no issues. And keep in mind, I used this guy mainly on T-Mobile, and I had no issues. So good job there. Next, let's keep it moving. Now, let's talk about the cameras and the camera interface on this guy. Now, before I jump into the camera interface, I just want to go into the ways that you can launch it on this particular device. So you can launch it from your lock screen here, swipe in, take you into the camera app here. You could double press the power button from anywhere while the device is on, or even while the device is off for that matter. It's going to take you in. Now I have the fingerprint set up with the pattern, so it's not going to take you in right away. And y'all could see I use open camera because it gets rid of the limit restrictions. Before this video, I want to talk to you guys about the main camera that runs on this guy. So that's how I have this set up to run here. So pretty much, regardless of what you're doing, it's going to launch you into the camera. Now, when we talk about the cameras, keep in mind, guys, we have a 5 megapixel camera up front here with LED flash and a 13 megapixel camera in the rear. And as I said, this guy is capable of recording, as you can see there, it's a 13 megapixel camera, and as I said, it's capable of recording 1080p video at 30 frames a second, 720p, and 480p. Alright, and it does have the ability to use the Pro mode, as y'all can see right there. So if you do like to use the Pro mode, you could dial in your shots however you would like. You also have panorama, video mode, all that good stuff. You don't have slow motion on this guy, but it is what it is. Now, talking about the camera interface, I have to say I really like the camera interface on the Moto E4 and the Moto E4 Plus. It's very simple and straightforward and very easy to use. You have your settings up here, so you got your HDR controls. So you can see you got your on, auto, off. You got your flash controls, on, auto, off. You got your timer. So you got 3 seconds and 10 seconds, or you could turn it off. If you want to get into more stuff here, swipe in from the side, and you can see you can actually control your shutter sound. You can control the quick capture gesture, so that's that double tap of the power button to launch the camera. You can control your camera resolutions, so you guys can see right there. You got 13 megapixels at 4:3. You got 9.7 megapixels at 16:9. You got 4:3, 8 megapixels, and 6 megapixels at 16:9. And you guys know, for me, I like to keep it at 16:9. It just gives it that more cinematic approach. But if you want to take advantage of all 13 megapixels, you're going to be stuck shooting in that 4:3 aspect ratio. You got your grid lines as well. Alright. If you're coming from a more traditional Motorola device, like in my case, I'm coming from the Moto X Pure Edition, you could turn on your tap anywhere to capture, and pretty much this lets you do similar features to the Moto X Pure Edition. So you can scroll around to focus. Alright. You can press and hold to lock focus. Alright. Press and hold again to unlock focus. You control your exposure with the little scroll wheel here, so you can dial that in how you would like. When you're ready to take the picture, just tap the screen and you take the picture. I really like that, because with that enabled, it's less hassling. You know what I'm saying? Say you're here or the phone is off. Oh, I want to capture that moment real quick. quick double tap of the power button, and you launches you into the camera. Now, it would do that, launch you into the camera if I didn't have those 2 camera apps, and you're good to go. And in particular here, you don't have to mess around with the shutter button. Oh, I can't reach it, maybe gotta tap it. You can just tap the screen. You're good to go. You want to dial in focus, lock in focus however you would like, and then tap the screen, take the picture. I really like that. It's really user friendly, and it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. So I really do appreciate that. So, you know, more manufacturers and camera apps need to integrate more user-friendly features like that, taking a lot of the guesswork out of it. Now, jumping over to the front, you have more of the same. Again, the front is a 5 megapixel camera, and again, you do have your pro mode with the front-facing camera as well. So you could dial it in as you would like. No panorama with the front, but you got all of your other features here. Again, to get into more settings, you swipe in from the side. Now, to take full advantage of all 5 megapixels, you're going to be stuck shooting in that 4:3 aspect ratio. If you like that 16:9, you're going to have to bump it down to 3.8 megapixels. So that's up to you. Now, you also have your beauty modes there. You got your flash on off auto. You got your HDR on off auto. You got your timer here. Again, 3 seconds, 10 seconds. Got your shutter controls. And again, you could tap anywhere on the screen to take the picture. Lock focus with the press and hold. Locks the focus. Unlock the focus. Press and hold. Control the exposure. So on and so forth. So it's pretty much exactly like the rear-facing camera. And I really like, again, that Motorola, now owned by Lenovo, they carried over all of the features from the front to the rear and vice versa. So everything you could do with the front, you can do with the rear. And everything you could do with the rear, you could do with the front. So that's really nice to see. So that being said, I really do like the camera interface. Now, let's talk about the photos and videos overall. Now, if you want to see photo samples with this guy, follow me on Google+. That's where I drop all the photo samples for whatever device that I'm testing. If you want to see real-life photo samples, follow me on Instagram. I throw a link up somewhere. It'll be down in the video description or on my YouTube homepage. It'll be somewhere on there. So follow me on Instagram if you want to see photo samples. Follow me on Google+ if you want to see photo samples. If you want to see the video samples, please check out my video samples playlist, which is on YouTube. Now, in terms of the videos and photos, I'd have to say that this one is on par with the Moto E4. So what does that mean? That means that the front and rear facing cameras on this guy are good. They're going to get the job done for pretty much any situation that you encounter. In some cases, they may not be the best, but in other cases, they will be pretty good. So all in all, when we talk about the cameras on this guy, whether we talk about photos or videos, I had to say the cameras on this guy are really good. Not the best, but really good. You know, in the right lighting situations, you shouldn't have any issues. All right. Now, let's keep it moving. Next thing I want to talk about with you guys now is the gaming on this guy. Now, I don't usually do this, but I do want to demonstrate, because if you check out my Moto E4 video, y'all can see that I did the demonstration. So I also want to do the demonstration for the E4 Plus here. And I do have these games loaded up in the background. So I'm going to stop talking and you guys enjoy the gameplay. We're going to do a few seconds on each game here. These are pretty much all the games I've tested. So we got Asphalt 8, we got Fruit Ninja, and we got Subway Surfer. Enjoy, guys. Get this game started. Pick a car here. And start the race. I can see just in real time how long these games take to load. And actually, it's not bad. It's a little bit of seconds, but it's not bad. And let me just mute the volume because it is kind of loud. So give me a second, guys. And we're just going to mute the engine sounds, mute the effects here. And you guys can see I didn't tinker with any settings. This is exactly how the game loaded itself up out of the box. And that's how I've been using it there. So y'all can see right there what it's set at as well. Alright. Okay, back up and enjoy, guys. And again, as I watch the gameplay, I gotta say that it does a really good job. Didn't have any issues in terms of gameplay, but you guys know I'm not a really big gamer. This is probably the most graphic intensive game that I'll play, and I apologize for those notifications popping up on screen as I just died. I actually do a lot better job than that, guys. But in terms of gameplay, again, that was Asphalt 8, and it really is a really good experience. A really good experience. No issues with the gameplay. Now let's load up Fruit Ninja so you guys can see here. Let y'all see how long that takes to load as well. And we'll play a little bit. Now, one downside is that, again, as I said in the unboxing, this device is really slippery. So sometimes it's hard to keep a hold of as I'm playing the games here, but you can alleviate that by just buying a grippy case for it. So let's go ahead and play a few seconds here. And another thing that I like is that I experienced no heating issues with this guy as well, and I actually played these games for long periods of time and didn't have any issues. At least 20 to 40 minutes of gameplay a day during my review period here, and I've had no issues. So no heating issues, no issues whatsoever, and it's actually really playable. So let's jump to the last game here, which is gonna be Subway Surfers. Now, keep in mind, guys, that I'm not a big gamer. These are pretty much just casual games, and they ran with no issues. Now, I'm pretty sure though that if you play a little bit more graphic intensive games like Mortal Kombat or Modern Combat or Nova 3, you may have some stutters or some drop frames. But in particular, when we talk about these casual games here, even though Asphalt 8 is a little bit more 3D intensive, as you can see, you should have no issues whatsoever playing these casual games, and everything should run exactly like how it's supposed to. In particular, though, I found that the Moto E4 Plus runs a little bit better compared to the Moto E4. Whereas the Moto E4 has a little bit more drop frames, although it is playable. The Moto E4 Plus, as long as you stick to these casual games, you're not really going to have any drop frames, any slowdowns, any issues whatsoever. So I just wanted to point that out. So in terms of gaming, you should have no issues as long as you stick to the casual games. If you move up to the more graphic intensive games, then you may run into some issues. So I wanted to point that out. Next, let's talk about the benchmarks on this guy. And pretty much this guy benchmarked pretty much where I was expecting it to. Now, it's not going to wow you by any shape or form, but keep in mind, guys, that the benchmarks are just raw numbers at the end of the day, and what really matters is the overall combination of hardware and software that equates to a smooth and fluid user experience. So in particular, I just show the benchmarks because I know I like to see the raw performance numbers, and I'm sure some of you guys do as well, but these will not wow you or blow you away in any shape or form. So the first test here was the 3D Mark Ice Storm Unlimited test, and you can see it scored a 6,546. So not bad, not good, but not bad. You can see in the Geekbench, it scored a 655 single core and an 1830 multi-core. So not the best by any shape or form. And in Tutu, it scored a 34,727. In the Quadrant Standard, it scored an 8,716. That was for the GPS. In the Valemo benchmark, and I did find this guy. You guys know this is one of my favorite benchmarks to run because it stacks up your devices next to some of the higher end devices. It's not really used. It's not really available on the Play Store, but I did find it. I did download it and I did run it, and this is what I had. So it pretty much scored the middle of the pack here. It scored a 1404, and you can see pretty much middle of the pack, and this was for the metal test. And pretty much bottom of the pack for the multi-core test with a 1373, but it is what it is. And that pretty much does it for the benchmarks. Now, you guys know I usually run the Disco Mark benchmark. I had a lot of issues getting that guy to run on this device. Couldn't actually get it to run without the device crashing or freezing, so I took that one off of the benchmarks, at least for this device. So you can throw that in as a negative for this device because I couldn't get it to run. Ran into a lot of issues with that, but it is what it is. So throw it up next to the occasional app slowdown, the problems with the micro SD card, and slot that in that the Disco Mark multitasking benchmark wouldn't run. Other than that, no issues with this guy. Okay? Now, next, let's talk about one of the most important parts of this guy here, and that is the battery life. And guys, I gotta tell you something, guys. In terms of battery life, this guy here, let me pull up some of the screenshots. This guy here has blown me away. Okay? In particular, before I get into this guy, let me just tell you up front, you should have no issues getting through a full day, if not 2 days, depending on the type of user that you are. Now, keep in mind, guys, I'm a very heavy user, so a lot of these stats will reflect that. These are just my results, but you should have no issues getting through a full day, if not 2 days, and getting at least 12 to 14 hours of screen on time. Yes, that is not a mistake. You are hearing me correctly. At least 12 to 14 hours of screen on time. So jumping in here, you can see this was a little bit of a heavier day. Ran it down to 17%. You can see I got 15 hours overall, 3 hours left, and I got 12 hours, a little bit over 12 hours of screen on time. Moving on, more of the same, more heavier day, still was able to get through the day, got 22 hours there. And you can see this particular one, I got 8 hours and 24 minutes of screen on time. But as we move through heavier day, super heavy day, still got a day and 3 hours of runtime, even though that's super heavy usage. And you can see, got 10 hours there, almost 11 hours. And this continued, so on and so forth. Ran it through 22 hours of usage, 31% screen on time. Got 13 hours of usage there. Ran it down to 15% here. Got 23 hours of overall usage. Got 11 hours of screen on time. And this just continues. This was a super heavy day, guys. Super heavy day. Got 19 hours of overall usage, 14 hours of screen on time, and yes, I was able to duplicate this at least 3 to 4 times. So yes, you should be able to easily get 14 hours of screen on time and still make it through a full work day. Now, again, this was just some of I used Ampere here, and this is what it was drawing off of the charger. So that's not bad, but I did want to point that out. It's not good, but it is a fast charge, which is what they advertise, a rapid charge. You can see you got 1810 milliamps, which is what it was drawing from the wall, which is not bad. So moving on with the battery test here. This was a weekend where I forgot to charge the device. And you guys can see I easily got through the day, got a day and 2 hours. And again, got 14 hours of screen on time. Again, moving on, a day and 16 hours, 11 hours of screen on time. Now, where's the big one? Now, I did this 2 days straight. I charged up the guy, and I just used the guy how I normally would. Easily got through 2 days. Not my heaviest usage, but easily got through 2 days with moderate usage and still got 11 hours and 25 minutes of screen on time. So guys, yes, again, did it again, ran it down to 10%. Again, easily got 12 hours of screen on time. Now I can stretch it out to 12 hours. Okay? So pretty much, guys, that was just my battery stats for you guys. So again, as I said, you should easily be able to get through a full day and have massive amounts of screen on time, savage amounts of screen on time if you want. If you're a more light to moderate user, then you're probably looking at something more akin to like 2 to 4 days